Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. And yes, it's another victorious Timberwolves post-game podcast. Today on the show, we'll talk about really the Timberwolves swagger. And what happened in this game is the Timberwolves really kind of punked LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll talk about how it went down, some key takeaways from the game, and another strong Karl-Anthony Towns game in limited minutes, 30 points in less than 30 minutes in this game. We're going to break it all down on the post-game pod. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. I'm also the editor of Dunking with Wolves, the Timberwolves site on the Fansided Network. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Victory Thursday. The Timberwolves beat the Lakers on Wednesday. There's plenty to talk about today. First, thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen each and every day. It's greatly appreciated. Of course, the show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube now. If you're not watching on YouTube, you can listen on any of your favorite audio platforms from Apple to Google, Spotify, Odyssey, anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find Locked On Wolves. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On T Wolves. And also my Twitter account is at Beecken. That's with two B's, two E's, CKEN. All right. This is the post-game podcast. The Timberwolves beat the Lakers on Wednesday night, and I've been starting with my big takeaway here the last couple of weeks on the post-game pod, and my big takeaway in this one is in some ways a little bit more kind of the last couple of weeks culminating in this game, and this was by no means the most impressive win. This is a game the Wolves should have won by double figures, but I mean the Wolves have now won 9 of 10. And go back further, they've won, I think, 12 of 15 or something crazy, 11 of 15 maybe. Go back to January, they have the best offensive rating in the league. They have a top 5 defensive rating over the past couple of months, top 10 in both all season long now, all that stuff. But this is a different Wolves team. Wednesday night was kind of the culmination of everything this team, and Monday in some ways was that, with Towns scoring 16 and 17 rebounds. But this was, LeBron James, the Los Angeles Lakers, obviously, one of the top 2 players to ever play the game, the most iconic franchise in league history at Target Center. Oftentimes that means it's at least half, and that's being generous, Lakers fans in the stands. It means LeBron is punking the Timberwolves. It means the Lakers are doing, are winning in most cases. Not this year. The Lakers are not the Lakers. LeBron is still LeBron, but obviously an older LeBron, and a LeBron that doesn't have, it's the oldest team in the league, right? He's got an older supporting cast. So it's kind of these symbols that normally completely punk the Timberwolves, and things were flipped on their head. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because there's this weird like social media backlash already of, the Karl-Anthony Towns, that you've no doubt seen the reaction at this point of his, where's the breeze, who opened the door on the Russell Westbrook airball, the Patrick Beverley clowning of Russell Westbrook and the Lakers generally, and Russ not liking it, and understandably so. But I mean, Russ has dished it out forever, including even in this game. And if he can't take it, the Timberwolves have every right to talk just as he does. And LeBron obviously could take, the Timberwolves can't say anything to LeBron. He's LeBron, right? But I don't want there to be this like weird, the Timberwolves shouldn't do this because they don't want to get overconfident type of a thing. I think there's a line there. Like, some of this stuff can happen. Guys talk trash, right? That's just a part of the game. And there's going to be, I can feel this sort of like backlash happening about the Timberwolves doing this too soon. Who do they think they are? They haven't won anything. Who cares? They're 11 above 500. It's a franchise that's been miserable for the vast majority of its existence. Towns scored 60 on Monday. Patrick Beverley's a ton of fun. Anthony Edwards everybody loves Anthony Edwards. And I think this is just this moment where it's all kind of coming together, and it's totally fine for them to enjoy it. And obviously Chris Finch, as the head coach, his job is to be a little bit worried about being overconfident. But this team is successful because of, obviously because of their talent, but also their swagger. That's something that the Timberwolves have never had, even in the Jimmy Butler era, which lasted a little over a year, of course. Jimmy had swagger, and Jimmy has always had swagger. Nobody else on the team did. Even Towns didn't. He was all NBA. He was also first time All-Star that year. Towns didn't have the same, anywhere near the same swagger that he has now, or level of confidence. Nobody else on the team did. There was nobody else dynamic on that team. I mean, Taj Gibson's a good player. Jeff Teague's a good player. Jamal Crawford was on, in his last season in the league. I mean, they had some guys, right? But like that team didn't have swagger. Kevin Garnett and those teams, that's a different story. They did, obviously, because the big ticket is the big ticket. But this is a different Timberwolves team. And because of their aggressive style of defense, their fast pace on offense, their high volume of three-pointers, their overall youth, with Beverly and Taurean Prince really being the only like true traveled veterans on the team at all, really. I mean, they've earned the ability to enjoy a win like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that is partly what makes them who they are. It's also going to have to carry them in part over the next 7 games as the Timberwolves take on. We'll talk about this on Friday's show. The next 7 games are really tough, and if the Wolves emerge from those 7 games, call it 4-3. Honestly, even 3-4 would be fine given the caliber of teams they're going to be playing. That's not the worst thing. Now, of course, this is where this teeters on the edge. At 11 games over 500, they have to keep this from being the high water mark. They can't afford to finish the season. I mean, how many games are left? 11. They're 41-30, so they've got 11 games left this season. They can't afford to finish the season like 4-7 or God forbid 3-11 or 3-8 or something like that. That can't happen because then you stumble into the play-in. They have to at least be, have positive momentum going through these next 7. Then they get 3 easy ones before they close the season with the Bulls. They can't let this be the high watermark. They have to let the swagger, the confidence carry them through, 2 off days now before they play Milwaukee in a matinee game on Saturday. Matinee is going to be tough after 2 off days. It's a home game, thankfully, but I think we're going to learn. We keep saying this. I think we're going to learn more about this Timberwolves team, as weird as this sounds, in game 72 on Saturday afternoon against the Bucks. How will they handle this latest success? 9 out of 10, 60 for Cat on Monday. Everybody talks about the Timberwolves all day Tuesday in the national media, the storylines, the TV shows, the debate shows, all that, everybody's talking about Towns and the Timberwolves. And then they go out and they punk LeBron and the Lakers by 20 on Wednesday. They make fun of Russell Westbrook. It's all over Twitter. How are the Wolves going to respond 72 hours later, or less than 72 hours, for the 4 p.m. Central game on Saturday against the reigning champs of the Milwaukee Bucks on Saturday afternoon? I'm not at all pretending like the outcome of that game is like, okay, this is how the season is going to end for the Wolves, but I think it'll show us something. Now, obviously, Patrick Beverly, Jared Vanderbilt playing in this game, that brings some of that edge back. Hopefully those guys are back on the floor again Saturday. They seem to be no worse for the wear on Wednesday. But there's my biggest takeaway from this game is just the attitude of this Timberwolves team, and it's now taken hold. They're not faking it anymore. It's not like, well, maybe we're good in early December when they kind of eked above. I think they were game above 500 before a little bit of a losing streak, and then the COVID stuff happened. This is real. I mean, this is a team that truly believes in themselves over the past 10 weeks or so. And how is that going to carry forward? Okay, I do have a couple of on-court takeaways, more tangible takeaways from this game that I want to get to here next segment. So we're going to do that next. First, though, let's talk about our new friends over at Athletic Greens. Our next partner, Athletic Greens, has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens about a week ago because honestly, I wanted better gut health. I wanted more energy. I don't get a ton of sleep. And also this time of year, everybody's looking to optimize their immune system. If you're wondering what Athletic Greens is, let me tell you. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, focus, aging, really all the things. I've started doing it every day about a week ago. It truly has made me feel more energetic throughout the day when I do the podcast at night. The whole 9 yards. It's been amazing. It's lifestyle friendly. If you are keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, gluten free, there's less than a gram of sugar in it. There's no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. It still tastes good. You can support better sleep quality and recovery. Supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with all the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testings. It was created when the founder of Athletic Greens experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It costs him over $100 a day. This is less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than, I don't know, your cold brew habit, for instance. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading through the end of flu and cold season. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, thanks again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen. For your next listen, you can check out the Locked On Now podcast. Has nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. It's the best way to get caught up on the previous night's action. If you don't want to watch the highlight shows, peruse Twitter, just check the box scores. Listen to the Locked On Now recaps. It's every host, yours truly included, 60 to 90 seconds. Quick snapshot of every game, but it'll give you more than just a box score would. Give you kind of the general sense of what happened, what you need to know to get caught up on the league the night before. So check out the Locked On Now podcast again, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Okay. Additional key takeaways beyond the Timberwolves swagger and confidence. This was a game that it would have been easy. And the Wolves actually did let the Lakers back in it, right? Minnesota was up big in the first half, a good halftime lead. Ant had 20 points in the second quarter. We'll talk more about him later. The defense was really good for a while. The Lakers looked completely disinterested. And then the Wolves kind of just spent much of the second half shooting themselves in the foot, really sloppy. The Lakers got, they were down by 25. They got all the way back to within 4. And the Timberwolves were able to push that lead all the way back up to 20. LeBron left the game with just over 3 minutes to play because it was over at that point. To me, the most notable things, number one, how the Timberwolves handled the absence of Jaden McDaniels. This is the first game with no J-Mac. He's going to miss at least 2 weeks. If you missed that news, we talked about it on Wednesday's show, but he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Likely he's going to miss 3-4+ weeks, which takes us right up until the end of the regular season and a little bit beyond potentially if it lasts 4 weeks. Of course, McDaniels is in the Wolves' preferred if they've got everybody healthy, like he started the other night when Vando didn't play. But ideally, he's coming off the bench. He's essentially the sixth man. Like he's going to play more minutes than Malik Beasley if everybody's healthy. However, because he's the sixth man, he's vital to the Timberwolves rotation. He's their most versatile defensive player. If Patrick Beverley is pound for pound the team's best defensive player, and I do believe that, McDaniels is next. And at least is a little more versatile. Obviously, has a little more lateral quickness and some of that. Vando's a long player, but McDaniels a little bit more versatile defensively. So we talked about this on Wednesday's show. How are the Wolves going to backfill McDaniels minutes? Thought it would be a lot of Taurean Prince. Means Jalen Noel probably plays a little bit more. I thought there was a chance we see some Josh Okogie. I was wrong on Josh Okogie. He did not play until garbage time in this game. That surprised me a little. But it meant really just a lot more Taurean Prince. He essentially picked up those minutes. And this was a game in which Karl-Anthony Towns got into some foul trouble, which, I mean, you could say that again lately, almost every night, unfortunately. Towns only played 26 minutes in this one. The Wolves actually went stretches in the, I guess it was late third quarter with Jared Vanderbilt at center and Taurean Prince at the 4, which is just an impossibly small lineup. I mean, you could get away with it against the Lakers because if Dwight Howard's not on the floor, and frankly, even if he is on the floor, you can get away with that. Howard only played 16 minutes. And other than that, I mean, LeBron was essentially playing center for chunks of this game. We saw LeBron at center. We saw Wenyen Gabriel playing some center. Carmelo Anthony's kind of a de facto big off the bench for them. I mean, it's those guys. So you could get away with it against the Lakers. It's not necessarily going to work, for instance, against Milwaukee this weekend and how big they play. And some of the other teams the Wolves are going to face here soon. But in this game, Minnesota was able to get away with Vando at the 5, to kind of limit Nate Knight's minutes. Nate did play. He played 14 minutes, about 12 of them were when it was a close-ish game. And he played well overall. He committed 5 fouls, by the way, though, in his 14 minutes. But a lot of Taurean Prince. He played 25 minutes off the bench, the most minutes of anyone off the bench, scored 13 points on 9 shots, hit 3 threes. He was huge in this game. And if the Wolves are going to ask him to play more at the 4, he's played mostly the 3 this year, a little bit of 4 here and there. But he's going to have to keep playing big. He's going to have to keep pulling down 4 rebounds in 25 minutes. That's a reasonable number for him. Malik saw 22 minutes of play. Jalen Noel played 18. So I don't think we really saw the bump trickle down to Jalen Noel. I think we saw a little bit more of Ant with Malik Beasley. We saw Torian at the 4. Everybody kind of slid up a notch and just played, I mean, they had what? They had 7 guys that played between 22 and 30 minutes in this game, which is kind of what we're going to see as we move closer to the playoffs. There were still 10 guys that played in terms of the rotation, but we're going to see those minutes kind of grow together in that 20s range for the top 7 to 8 guys in the rotation, and we saw that in this game. Um, so that was interesting. We'll obviously keep an eye on it. Like I said a minute ago, I really do think it's matchup dependent more than anything, as it should be. We're going to see some nights where the Wolves may give Jordan McLaughlin. He's got that nagging groin injury. He missed Friday's game, played Saturday, missed Monday's game. Maybe they continue to try and steal some rest for him, depending on opposing team backcourts. If they can afford to miss his defense for a night, if Jalen Noel's playing well, if they can steal a night off for Vanderbilt, it's going to be hard to do with no Jaden McDaniels, but possibly that happens. Same with Patrick Beverly. I think we're going to kind of see the Wolves list a bunch of these guys as questionable. And then depending on the opponent, how the schedule lines out, there aren't many. I don't actually know if there's any back-to-backs left for the Wolves. There might be one, but that would be the most. Try and steal some of these off nights for some of these guys that have the nagging injuries, the Pat Bevs, the Jordan McLaughlins, the Jared Vanderbilts, guys like that. Anthony Edwards as well. Okay, confident Jalen Noel. I got it. I feel like at this point I'm almost contractually obligated to talk about Jalen Noel. But I mean, not like a game that screamed awesome Jalen Noel game, right? He shot just 4 of 11, played only 18 minutes, but he played well when the Wolves needed him. When this game was 2 possessions, essentially kind of waffling between 2 and 4 possessions early fourth quarter, really. Jalen Noel wanted to take on some scoring load. This was when Karl-Anthony Towns was on the bench mostly during this time because of foul trouble. And Jalen just has no problem putting the ball taking the ball into his hands and scoring from anywhere on the court. He knocked down a big 3 at one point, had a nice high bounce, high above the shot clock, bounced right through the rim, shooter's touch, the whole thing. He attempted a couple of pull-ups from the mid-range. He at one point missed a tough shot in the lane. Could have been a foul call. There wasn't. He got his own rebound, followed it up with the bucket. It's a high volume approach, but it's a high volume approach that works because of how efficient he generally has been this year. The fact that he can distribute for others if the situation calls for it. And the fact that the way he plays is enough of a mix, and I've said this before, but enough of a mix between D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards that it fits the Wolves offense extremely well. It's not the high volume, it's not Jamal Crawford, for instance, as long as, I brought up the Jimmy Butler Timberwolves first segment. It's not the Jamal Crawford approach. It's not just a gunner approach from the mid-range off the dribble. It's Jalen Noel shooting pull-up threes in rhythm. He's shooting catch-and-shoot threes. He's putting the ball on the floor, getting into the paint. He's making the right read. He's just he's transformed himself into a really intelligent player. I mean, his first 2 years in the league, including last year, he really looked kind of nervous when he was on the floor, tentative to shoot threes. And if he didn't make his first shot or two, he was totally fine to just stop shooting, right? I mean, that's kind of what we saw from him the first couple years in the league, and he is ultra confident now, and the Wolves need that shot in the arm off the bench. Taurean Prince is a little bit more of a high volume guy than I was expecting him to be. He puts the ball on the floor a lot more than I would expect. Still 8 of his 9 field goal attempts in this game were threes, but they still need a guy like Jalen Noel that can legitimately score at all 3 levels. Okay, last key takeaway from this one is the free throw and foul battle. This is something I want to spend a little time about, I think, on Friday's show. The Timberwolves, of course, all season long, this is well documented, have been the league's worst team in terms of opponent free throw rate or defensive free throw rate, you could call it, and also just general foul rate. They commit more fouls than any team in the league. They give up more opponent free throw attempts than any team in the league. And their differential between their own free throws and opponent free throws has been the league's biggest. However, the last 3 games, Saturday in Miami, the Monday win at San Antonio, and Wednesday over the Lakers, the Wolves have won fairly easily both the foul category, less fouls than their opponent, and the free throw category, more free throw attempts than their opponent. Now, obviously they're related, right? It makes sense that they would one fouls the other. But it's a huge deal for a team that has struggled so much with that differential this year. For the Wolves to be able to hang their hat on that here these last couple of games, last 3 games, is a massive deal. Moving forward, it's going to get tougher when you play against better competition. Even without Jimmy Butler, though, Miami's a pretty good team. San Antonio's, they're not great, but they're not awful. The Lakers have LeBron. Like, it's not like it's all against Houston and Oklahoma City like it was a couple of weeks ago. But the real test is, can the Wolves defend without fouling to a reasonable extent against the Milwaukees, the Bostons, the Denvers, the teams they're going to play here soon? Dallas, for instance, that's going to be tough to do against Dallas. And can they continue to get to the free throw line? We've seen Karl-Anthony Towns finally start getting some foul calls. He shot 15 free throws on Monday, 13 free throws on Wednesday. His free throw rate had been the lowest it had been in years coming into this week. I'm sure now it's already, these last couple of games have increased that pretty significantly. But are Towns and the Timberwolves as a whole going to continue to get these calls they've gotten the last couple of times out? That's going to be a big factor here moving forward. Okay, let's close the show today by doing individual studs and duds. We're going to do that next. First, though, let's talk about our friends over at Bet Online. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. Starts this week, starts today, actually, from all the, well, kind of, it started earlier this week, but it really starts today. You know what I mean? From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's talk individual studs and duds here before we close this thing out and look ahead. So for the Wolves, obviously Karl-Anthony Towns, 30 points on 15 shots, ultra efficient in just 26 minutes, by the way. 30 points, 15 shots, 26 minutes. Only made 1 3 in this game on just 3 attempts. 13 of 13 at the free throw line. That's, of course, where the efficiency comes in. And, of course, I guess over 50% for the field doesn't hurt. 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. He did turn it over 6 times, which wasn't great. One was a travel that was not a travel. And a couple were charges that were legit. There were at least 2 or 3 charges that were legit. And then he had a couple of just awful passes. So he was a little careless in this game, but he was still the best player on the floor. He just was. He committed 4 fouls. The foul trouble thing's not great. But what are you going to do? The Wolves are so much better with him on the floor. I mean, 30 points in 26 minutes on 15 shots. I mean, that's really all that matters here. Anthony Edwards, another obvious stud in this game, 27 points in 32 minutes, 8 of 21 shooting, and 6 of 11 on 3. So he was only 2 of 10 on 2-point attempts. Missed a couple of layups. It almost kind of looked like he ran out of juice at the rim a couple of times. He tried to go reverse, kind of up and under, and left it short at least twice in this game. And I don't know if that's just the knee bothering him, his legs at this time of year, or if it was just kind of a fluke. But there were a couple of those that, the scoring at the rim for him, he's got to shore that up a little bit. Didn't really do anything, in between. He just kind of struggled in the paint, good outside the arc, did get to the line 6 times. So 27 points on 21 shots. The Wolves will take that from him, especially after a couple of quiet games before this. 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block for Ant in 32 minutes. And actually, he was tied for the team best in plus minus with plus 19, along with Malik Beasley. So a good game for him. Third stud for me in this game has to be Patrick Beverley. He was phenomenal. The Timberwolves' third leading scorer, 18 points on 6 of 9, 2 of 3 on 3-point shooting, did some damage early, did some damage late. 6 rebounds, including a couple of big offensive rebounds, 3 blocks in this game for Patrick Beverley. He's averaging a career high in blocks this year. His block rate's just off the charts for a small guard. 1 assist and 1 steal, 0 turnovers. So check this, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 0 turnovers, 6 of 9 shooting, 2 made threes in 29 minutes for Patrick Beverley. And, of course, got under the Lakers' collective skin. The Wolves had, early in the game, Anthony Edwards was guarding Russell Westbrook kind of out the gate, and Patrick Beverley was on Malik Monk. Didn't really matter because Russell Westbrook didn't do much in this game, and neither did Malik Monk. But that's how the Wolves tried to attack this, with the obvious history between Beverley and Russell Westbrook. But Beverley did Beverley stuff. He got under the Lakers' skin, got a technical late in the game, did his thing, and played a really solid game. Timberwolves won by 20. That's kind of the story of the season, or at least of the last couple months, I guess. And then also shout out, I guess I won't give him a stud, but Torian Prince, talked about him earlier, 13 points and 4 of 9 shooting, 3 made threes, 4 rebounds for Prince. A really strong game off the bench for him. Only dud for me, and this is kind of a half-hearted dud, but it's D'Angelo Russell. He was a plus 18 in the plus minus column, had 6 assists and only 1 turnover, but he only had 6 points, 2 of 11 shooting, 1 of 7 on 3-point attempts, and 1 of 3 at the line. Left a technical free throw attempt short, left a lot of shots short, just didn't quite have the legs tonight. He played a team high 30 minutes, though, interestingly enough. But 6 points, 6 assists, 1 rebound, 2 of 11 shooting for D'Lo, 1 of 7 on threes, 1 of 3 at the line. Not his best game, but hey, he initiated the offense well enough. The Timberwolves scored 124, and he did what he needed. The Wolves did what they needed to do to beat a team that's now 29-40 in LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron, by the way, 19 points, but it took him 21 shots to do it. Was 1 of 8 on threes and had 5 turnovers, 5 personal fouls, only 4 assists for LeBron. Was a game worst, tied for a game worst, minus 19 in the plus minus column. Not a good game for LeBron. Okay, that's all we have for you here today. I want to talk on Friday about the upcoming schedule, kind of dive into it a little bit more, what to expect. I've been talking for a while now about this ominous 7 games the Wolves have against almost surefire playoff teams. And there's some big ones in there. Denver and Dallas, 2 against Dallas, 1 against Denver. So I want to break that down more on Friday's show. And then the Wolves don't play again until Saturday. So we'll set you up for the weekend for the next week, really, and go from there on Friday's show. So thank you to those of you that do subscribe to this podcast. Greatly appreciated. Of course, you can find it anywhere. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Apple, Google, Spotify, Odyssey. You can also follow on Twitter at Locked On T-Wolves and my account, which is at Beecken with 2 B's, 2 E's, CKEN. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Of course, Locked On Wolves is part of that network, the Locked On Network, and we greatly appreciate you listening. One last reminder about Locked On NBA. As long as you're making Locked On Wolves your first listen, which we appreciate, you can make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every day, Monday through Friday, in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.